The media, our friends, our allies, telling us the truth and definitely not amping up some stories and ignoring others in order to shape our reality to benefit them and their corporate partners. Hello there, you 4.5 million miracles. How I lovely, let me count the ways. Well, there are at least 4.5 million ways now. If you're in the UK between January and May, come see me, particularly at the Hammersmith Apollo or in Margate. There's a link in the description. Come see me. I'm in fact giving away some tickets and you'll have to sign up to my mailing list to see how I'm doing that. There'll be a link at the end for that too. At least when you're watching this media, I'm explicit about what I'm doing rather than the skullduggery you'll get over there in the mainstream. Let's have a look at what they've been after. Oh, look, I'm like the proper news now, like with Joe Rogan goes, he's got pieces of paper and everything.
Russell Brand, he's got papers out, he's reading these facts.
John Legum, founder and author of Popular Information, writes, on the 4th of June 2021, a report of a KGO TV in San Francisco tweeted a cell phone video of a man in Walgreens filling a garbage bag with stolen items and riding his bicycle out of the store. According to San Francisco's crime database, the value of the merchandise stolen in the incident was between $200 and $950. According to an analysis by FAIR, a media watchdog, this single incident generated 309 stories. Bloody hell! Did you see that guy with that goddamn bag going off on a bike? I mean, just when you hear the words bag and bike, it's really not a massive crime, is it? He's got his own bike and his own bin bag? That bastard. I'd love a bike and a bin bag. Or garbage sack. 309 stories between the 14th of June and 12th of July. A search by Popular Information reveals that since the 12th of July, there have been dozens of additional stories mentioning the incident. I can't let it go. And what about the guy with a bin bag and the bike? Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about him. That bastard! The theft has been covered in a slew of major publications, including the New York Times, USA Today and CNN. Main news again, that bloke with the bike and the bin bags has been at it. What, again? Well, no, but still last time he did it that time, didn't he? What, you're telling me again? Yeah, I just want you to remember him. Are there any other crimes you're not reporting while you're filling all of this time with this trivial crime by an evident poor person? No, you don't need to worry about that. Shut up, get away from me. Bin bag man! In most coverage, the video is presented as proof that there are no consequences for shoplifting in San Francisco. But the man in the video, Jean Lugo-Romero, was arrested about a week later and faces 15 charges, including grand theft, second-degree burglary and shoplifting. He was recently transferred to a county jail where he's being held without bond. Now, I know that you see things like where it's like, look at this city, it's out of control, it's falling apart because of this type of government or whatever. And you know me where I stand when it comes to politics. I don't like none of them. So what it really is poor people that have got no power may commit crimes as a result of their poverty. Now, wait a second, because if you're about to say, yeah, but no, but what about me? What about me? Then surely you're going to be interested in bigger crimes for larger amounts of money that probably affect the interests of the powerful. Support them. Remember, for example, there was a little bit of a bin bag full of money in good old 2008. But I don't remember anyone ever going to jail. I think one bloke did. It was bin bag bike man. Just a few months earlier, in November 2020, Walgreens paid a $4.5 million settlement to resolve a class action lawsuit alleging that it stole wages from thousands of its employees in California between 2010 and 2017. The lawsuit alleged that Walgreens rounded down employees' hours on their time cards. Oh man, there's poor people working at Walgreens. It's like them crimes when they nick a fraction of a penny from a bank. You hear about it all the time. If we just nick a fraction of a penny, no one will ever know. But Walgreens are doing that to their employees. Rounded down hours on their time cards required employees to pass through security checks before and after their shift without compensating them for time worked, and failed to pay premium wages to employees who were denied legally required meal breaks. Walgreens' settlement includes attorney's fees and other penalties, but $2.8 million, I rounded that down actually, it says 2.03, went to Walgreens employees to compensate them for the wages that the company had stolen. Even now reading it, I find it hard to say stolen because it's sort of done in a more corporate-y way rather than with a bin bag. And I've been sort of trained, and it dramatically makes more sense to me, that stealing is going to a place with a bin bag on a bike and sort of doing things with maths. Oh, well, no one got hurt. That's maths. It was probably an accountant. But when it actually comes down to the impact of that crime and the amount of that crime, it's much, much worse. But it ain't on the news. Why could that be? And because it's a settlement, that amount represents a small fraction of the total liability. According to the order approving the settlement, it represents approximately 22% of the potential damages. Should be all of it. So this is a story of a corporation that stole millions of dollars from its own employees. How much news coverage did it generate? There was a single 221-word story in Bloomberg Law, an industry publication, and that's it. That's mental. Bin bag man's been at it again. Well, not again, but he did do it that time ages ago. Walgreens has been avoiding paying its employees and doing these security checks and not compensating them. But remember Bin Bag Man? He had his own bike. Where did he get that bike from? And does he keep enough grease on the chain? There's been no coverage in the New York Times, USA Today, CNN, or the dozens of other publications that cover the story of a man stealing a few $100s of merchandise. My own prejudices make it hard for me to see corporate crime in the same way. You even use words like corruption. Someone told me the other day, just call it crime. Corruption masks the reality of what it is. You just can imagine more a man stealing stuff with a bin bag, and it seems more, oh, you come near me, you dirty bastard. But when it's like, oh, it's only little penny pieces from loads of poor people, in the back of your mind, this is what it is. Poor people deserve to be poor, and people stealing like that, they shouldn't be doing that. It's like we've been trained, we've been conditioned. We have to deregulate ourselves. We have to de-school ourselves from our own prejudices, from the kind of narratives and stories we're used to being told, because otherwise we're never going to get nothing done. We're not going to change the world. Say, like obedient little prisoners, worrying about old bin bag man, watching it on the news all the time. 319 stories. I mean, it's so ridiculous, isn't it? I want to watch it now.
Back here in San Francisco, brazen robberies like this one have become an epidemic.
You son of a bitch! How dare you? How dare you steal that stuff from those shelves? Did you pay the people that stacked those shelves? He's getting away! He's getting away with a bin bag! While Lugo-Romero has been behind bars since June on allegations that he sold several $1,000s in a series of shoplifting incidents, no one at Walgreens has had to take personal responsibility for stealing millions from its employees. Stefano Pessina, who served as Walgreens CEO during the majority of the alleged wage theft, saw his compensation rise from $7,133,155 in 2015 to $17,483,187 in 2020. In 2021, Pessina transitioned from CEO to executive chairman. Pessina, I need to talk to you in my office now. What's this about you stealing from all the employees? Yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been stealing all their money. Congratulations, Pessina. You got a pay rise. And you're promoted. Wait a second. Is that Bin Bag Man? Get him! Get him! No, that's a video, sir. Nevertheless. Needless to say, neither Pessina nor any Walgreens employee has had to spend any time in jail as a result of millions in wage theft. You can't think of it in the same way. You can't help but think he deserves old bin bags, old Romero, poor sod, banged up for a bag of crap, whereas old Pessina is basically a hero. Yeah, that's what it is. It's because what Pessina's doing what he's supposed to do, making maximum profit. That other person's doing, you're not supposed to do that, don't do that. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's right that that geezer stole a bin bag of stuff on a bike. It's bad, according to the law, and, you know, even just common morality to nick a bin bag of stuff on a bike. But what we're talking about, obviously, is the amount of coverage that story received in relationship to a story about a much worse crime, and the difficulty even in comprehending those sorts of distinctions. We can't regulate our own minds. We've been sort of bludgeoned into a particular perception. And one wonders where Walgreens spend their advertising dollars, and if any of those platforms and papers receive money from Walgreens or their affiliates, because Walgreens probably owned by a whole bunch of other stuff. You know how this gig works, don't you? So it's not because of any moral reason. It's because of kind of collusive corruption. Lugo-Romero. I can't believe we're still talking about this guy. Lugo-Romero's alleged thefts are part of a larger problem of retail theft. But after accounting for all retail theft, Walgreens recorded $2.3 billion in profits in the fiscal year 2021. Walgreens is still a highly profitable business. Bad news. Bloody bin bag bike guy got away with a bag full of stuff. Also, we made $2.3 billion, but that bin bag of stuff, that still hurts. Can we watch the video again? Meanwhile, the median Walgreens employee makes just $33,396 a year. When the company steals hundreds or thousands of dollars in wages from its employees, it has a real impact on workers who are struggling to make ends meet. The only way in which Walgreens is an aberration, unfortunately, is that it's had to pay some of its employees back. Numerous companies steal billions in wages from workers in the United States each year. It's a crime that's seldom prosecuted or covered in the media. I wonder why. A 2017 study of minimum wage violations, which is just one kind of wage theft, found that in the 10 most populous states, 2.4 million workers lose $8 billion annually, an average of $3,300 per year for year-round workers. To minimum wage violations, nearly a quarter of their earned wages. Oh wow, nearly a quarter of their wages get robbed. Or your wages, if you're one of those people. If similar levels of wage theft are found in other states, it suggests the total wages stolen from workers due to minimum wage violations exceeds $15 billion a year. That's more than the value of stolen goods in all property crimes, according to the latest FBI statistics. Shoplifting is just a small fraction of total property crime. Nevertheless, media coverage of shoplifting vastly exceeds media coverage of wage theft. A search of United States publications in the Nexus News database reveals 11,631 stories mentioning shoplifting in 2021. Over the same period, the same outlets published just 2009 stories mentioning wage theft. What this story shows me is it's not only that the media lie by telling you things that are untrue, but more insidiously, they focus all of their energy and amplifying ability on stories that kind of don't really help you, while neglecting to mention information that could radically reform society in a way that's more poisonous. To show like 300 stories about a bin bag worth of stuff getting nicked because it suits their agenda, and never mentioning all this corporate stuff. I'm sure there are no evil people making those decisions, but that's what institutional and systemic thinking will do for you. The relationships between corporations, their advertising dollars, and media mean that it's just automatic. They automatically focus on stories that direct you in a certain way. This is what we mean when we say manipulation, manufacture of consent, agenda. That's what all these words mean. Little things like that, the amplification of trivial crime by poor people, albeit wrong, is not as important as massive amounts of money being taken from ordinary people to further feather the nest of the rich. And that's something we have to unbug ourselves from. We have to de-propagandize our own consciousness to see reality more clearly. Walgreens workers in California were able to recover wages lost from wage theft by filing a class action lawsuit. But for many workers, that kind of lawsuit isn't an option. In some areas, employees are increasingly required to waive their right to sue for wage theft as a condition of employment. According to a report from the National Employment Law, 7.75 million workers in the United States earning less than $13 per hour were subject to forced arbitration in 2019. Millions of these workers are victims of wage theft, but the employer-imposed collective and class action waiver prohibits them from joining forces to take on employers who cheat. Instead, disputes are pushed into private arbitration, a forum that is notoriously friendly for corporations. It's an interesting story because it shows how information is presented and then how legislation is managed to prevent any traction on behalf of ordinary people when it comes to protecting their own rights and their own wages. But corporations have access to mighty facility all over the place. So if you want a fair society, I guess this is something you would address. This means the only way to recover stolen wages would be for each employee to individually file a complaint. Again, I suppose this is a nod to the necessity for collective action. This is something most employees will never have the time or knowledge to do. With few exceptions, they cannot afford legal representation, and even if everyone were able to figure out how to challenge their employer themselves, public agencies operating at their current capacity could recover less than 4% of wages stolen from employees locked out of class action lawsuits. In a sense, what a system is a set of rules, regulations and relationships that prevent change. A system requires its own preservation and protection. And this one story, brilliantly constructed, shows us how a small crime like shoplifting, while still wrong, has a relatively insignificant impact on business and cultural life more broadly, but is amplified through the media so that you feel a sense of allegiance with corporations. But these kind of corporate crimes are sort of masked, veiled, permitted, and prevention of those crimes is made almost impossible, even if you can see it through the glare of propaganda that makes up modern media bias. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Give us a thumbs up. Did this change your perspective on an important issue? Or do you think I've missed something here? Let me know. Turn on the subscriptions and notification bell so you get this stuff regularly and you know when it's here. If you enjoyed this video, have a little look at this one. If you need to learn a little bit about spirituality, sign up to my Awakening side channel. Join my mailing list as well so I can tell you what I'm doing, what I'm reading, what I'm up to. If you're in the UK between January and May, come see me live, particularly at Hammersmith. Big, fantastic shows about all the stuff that you're going to love learning about and laughing about. Stay free.